the scientists don't believe very many of them do. But these Monarchs in California, now remember, the ones on the western side of the Rockies come here. They hang out, and as far as I can tell, they learn to speak pretty good Spanish. Not as much as the ones that go down to Mexico and spend the winter there, but they still spoke pretty good Spanish. A lot of those things that look like dead leaves start flapping around after a while. Surprise, surprise, they're actually Monarchs. Grace, how did you say Romania when you were growing up there?
Romania.
Romania. And while you were there, did you run into lots of people who spoke other languages?
Definitely. Lots. The majority of people do speak at least a little bit of English, and all children learn a foreign language by second grade. And by 4th or 5th grade, they're starting their second foreign language. Sometimes then in college, they'll do another foreign language. So everyone speaks at least one foreign language.
Is that what you have, dual citizenship?
No, I don't.
So you are a citizen of the U.S.?
Yes, I'm a citizen of the U.S. We had to get visas in order to live over there. And even my younger brothers and sisters that were born in Romania, you have to pick one or the other. You can't have dual citizenship. You have to either get your Romanian citizenship or your American citizenship.
But that was your life, I mean, over there in Eastern Europe. So did you ever want to... You say definitely. Did you ever want to be a Romanian citizen?
Yes. Growing up, especially through my teenage years, I could never imagine leaving Romania. That was my home. But once you come back to America, you do realize that you are an American. What would you say? Like at your core, you actually are an American. And you can feel it coming back here, people speaking your native language. But you still have a little bit of Romanian in you.
Do you have it in your heart?
Romania? Yes, definitely. I mean, when I go back over there, I do feel at home.
I want to ask you a question, Grace,
Yes.
that I ask people oftentimes. And a lot of Americans would be offended by this question. I keep asking it because they should not be offended at this question. They should not be. Can you be Romanian and American? And can you love two countries?
Most definitely. Most definitely. I mean, yes, I'm an American citizen. I was born in America. My parents are American. My brothers and sisters are Americans. But growing up, especially where you spend your teenage years, I really think that country stays in your heart forever. For some reason, when you're going through those, like 12 to about 18, you really, that really stays in your heart wherever you spend those years of your life. And even to this day, I still to a certain extent feel Romanian. Different ways I think, ways I say things.
What would be a difference? Can you give us a couple of differences about how you think?
Yeah, when I go and buy somebody flowers, I don't like buying an even amount of flowers because overseas we only buy even amounts for funerals. You never buy an even amount. So like a dozen roses, if you gave that to a girl overseas, they would be very offended. And in my first year of college, a guy actually gave my sister a dozen roses. And me and her were so offended. We couldn't believe someone would actually give a dozen roses. But then we had to think, and actually that is normal in America. We're not in Romania anymore. You know, they don't wish our death upon us or anything like that, because that's what it would mean to give somebody an even amount. It's almost like saying, I want you to die.
So what would be a number? What's a good
Any
number?
odd number. 1, 3, 5, anything odd is absolutely acceptable.
Okay, you were telling me that they have a lot more schools there. Elementary schools?
Yes, they have a school for every neighborhood, maybe every 10 to 15 blocks, there's a school. They have a very large amount of elementary schools.
And so what does that mean for the lifestyle?
That means all the children walk to school. There's no such thing as a school bus. You don't see these yellow buses driving around picking up children. Everyone walks to school.
And what was the schedule when you were in school?
We actually went from about 7:30 to 11:30 in the morning.
And then you walked home?
And then we walked home.
So everybody just walks home?
Yes.
And for how long do you take a break?
It's 45 to 50 minute classes, and you get about 10-minute breaks in between.
But at midday or 11:30?
11:30, everybody goes home. That's it. School's over.
School's over?
Yeah.
Did you learn very much?
Oh, definitely. Definitely. I think you actually learn more in the small amount of time than having to sit through a classroom for 8 hours.
You didn't go to school anymore that day?
No, that was it. We went home, did some homework, and...
So did everybody go to school in the morning?
No, only classes 1st through 4th grade went to school in the morning, and then 5th through 8th grade would go from about 11:30, 12 o'clock until 3, 4 o'clock in the afternoon.
You told me a while ago that you walked into a store in San Francisco yesterday, and it was for left-handers, and it reminded you of something that you've been thinking about lately.
Yeah, in Romania, children were not allowed to write with their left hand because we have to use fountain pens, even in 1st grade. And a fountain pen, they were actually the old-fashioned ones where you had to almost like pump the ink into them. They were very, very messy. So if you wrote with your left hand, you would smear everything. And so both of my younger brothers were left-handed, and when they went to Romanian school, my mom actually had to come and talk to the teachers and ask them to let my brothers write with their left hand.
And the teachers, what did they think?
They weren't happy about it. They let them, but they would still get on to them. I remember some of the teachers yelling at them and saying, look how much you smear, you need to write with your right hand.
Oh.
But all of the Romanian children, I remember about 3 in my class that were left-handed and were forced to write with their right hand, and they would cry and they would get so upset because it was so hard when you've been writing for 7, 8 years.
Well, what do you mean?
When you've been writing for 7 or 8 years with your left hand and all of a sudden you're forced to write with your right hand, it's pretty difficult.
So the other Romanian kids who weren't allowed to, let's just say the other left-handers,
Right.
When they saw your brothers able now to write with their left hand, what did they think about that?
They'd get mad, and sometimes they'd sneak behind the teacher and try to write with their left hand.
On the board, you mean?
No, in their books. We would do like tests and stuff, and if the teacher caught them writing with their left hand, she'd get really mad at them. And of course, punishment there is no problem.
What do you mean?
Oh, they can hit you over the head. They can.
What?
No, I'm serious. When I remember.
Come on.
No, I'm serious. My brother was talking to this boy in the back of the classroom one time. All the benches, you all have a benchmate. And there's usually about 3 to 4 rows of benches, and all of the benches are connected. So from the first bench all the way to the last one, they're all connected by like metal bars on the bottom. So if the student in the first bench moves, it moves your bench in the back, which is really annoying when you're writing with a fountain pen and you get graded on how well your writing is. And my brother was talking to this boy in the back, and they were bench mates, and the teacher came behind them while they were talking and took their heads and banged them together.
Oh.
I'm not kidding. And then this other kid, I remember him writing the wrong answer on the board. The teacher said, "You're so stupid. Why can't you learn?" And she started hitting his head against the chalkboard. And this was within my first weeks of school, and I was shocked.
Well, what was your reaction to that, besides shock?
Besides my jaw falling open, it was. I remember going home and telling my parents, and at first I don't think they really believed me, but now we all laugh about it. But back then we were kind of shocked. It was just, I can't really say, like, our reaction was just really pure shock that somebody could actually do that and get away with it.
How old were you at that particular incident? Or grade?
I was about 10 years old.
Oh, you were?
Yeah.
Did you live somewhere else though before that, over there?
Before Romania?
Yeah.
Yes, we lived in Bulgaria for 1.5 years.
Oh, so we're talking just about Romania right now.
Yes, it's about Romania.
By the way, if we went back there, would you expect that school to be the same way?
Very close to the same way. They don't move as fast as America does in their culture and catching up with the times and stuff. They are much, I would say, especially with the teachers. If a teacher's been teaching there for 20 years, she's not going to change the way she punishes her students or talks to them.
But Grace, are your memories of the school good? Or is it just harsh? Because I think a lot of us would think, oh no, she was miserable.
Oh, no, not at all. They were very good memories.